Justin Simmons has finally found a new home with the Atlanta Falcons, and we'll also be discussing my record predictions for every AFC team on this edition of the Shumake Take. Let's get it. All right, and welcome in everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you are listening to the Shumake Take, and this is episode 10. And we got to discuss the signing of Justin Simmons. He goes to the Atlanta Falcons on a one-year deal. We'll elaborate more in a second. And we also got to talk about my record predictions for every single AFC team. We did the NFC a couple days ago, and now we're doing the AFC. And I think this is going to be really interesting. I think the AFC is a lot more of a hotter take compared to the NFC. But we got to do a little bit of housekeeping first. As you can tell, I'm in a new location. I'm now at my uncle's house. I left my great aunt's house. So I'm going to be here for a couple more days, and I'm going to head back home to Florida, where you'll see the original. Well, you won't see the setup actually when we get back home. I'm going to change it up a little bit and find something that's a little bit more comfortable and less, painful to do, or not painful, but less annoying to do, because the original setup, I had to have to take that desk that was in front. I had to move it all the way across my room to set it up where it is. So I'm going to try and find something that's a little bit more simple to do and a little bit more advantageous where I feel comfortable. And speaking of comfortable, right now, like I said, I'm in my uncle's house, and I'm in his little bonus room. So some houses in Tennessee, if you don't know what a bonus room is, it's literally like an extra room that you go upstairs in. So it's not exactly a second story, but it's just an extra room they throw upstairs. And that's where I'm at right now, and he's completely redone it. He put all new floors in. He has collectible neon signs over that way that are really beautiful when they're all lit up. He's got all new furniture. He's got a bunch of memorabilia and collectible like gas pumps, gas canisters, like collectible tractors. Like, it's really beautiful up in here. He put new shutters in too, so I got a lot of natural light coming here right here on my face. It's absolutely perfect. And then of course, new sofa. There's this desk or coffee table that's out in front of me, opens up and pulls forward, so I can literally work right here on the couch. It's really advantageous. It's really comfortable. And I think we're going to have a good video because I'm in my element right now. This feels really, really good. I feel really comfortable. I know the mic is kind of in the way. It's right there. Right there. But I feel comfortable with it there because I sound fine. I'm not going to hold it and let it move around and whatnot. And just because I'm kind of sunk in. I'm not in my actual space. So we're going to be figuring it out. We're going to get there. But we got to talk about today's content. And Justin Simmons, he goes to the Atlanta Falcons on a one-year deal. I think it was $8 million. I can't remember if it was up to or exactly $8 million. But this is an absolute steal. This is an absolute steal for the Atlanta Falcons because he is a four-time All-Pro. He was an All-Pro last year. I think he was a first-team All-Pro last year. If not, he was second team. But still, he was an All-Pro. He's a top 5 safety or top 5 free safety in the league right now. And this is a massive, massive move. And you add this on top of the Matthew Judon trade that happened a day ago at the time of the recording of this video. Today is August 16th. It happened on the 15th. So they make two big moves and add two really good pieces to their defense. That's already been top 10. That was top 10 last year. Oh my goodness, that took a little bit to get going. But this is a massive move. And I think now definitively, with these two moves, I think the Falcons, I'm going to have them predicting to go 10-7. I know we're talking about the AFC records today, but just to kind of build off of what I said in my NFC video, I think with these moves, the Falcons are going to go 10-7, and they're going to definitively win this division for sure. I don't know exactly, which team is going to loot, what win I'll have to take away from another team. I'm not really sure who it's going to be. But as of now, I can say, okay, 10 wins for the Atlanta Falcons. They're now it's definitively like no questions asked. They're the best team in the NFC South. And now they're just that much further away from Tampa, from Carolina, from New Orleans for sure. And I think this is a great move. Overall, it's just a great move. I can't stress it enough. It's making me a broken record because Justin Simmons is a great player. And it surprises me how cheap they got him for, because I heard that his asking price was relatively high, which is why he didn't get signed until now. So either way, great move by the Atlanta Falcons. And they are really going to try and compete this year for sure. Not that they weren't before, but they're going to be really competitive this year. And I think this defense can definitively, I can definitively say it's going to be a better unit this year. And I will bank on that. But we got to get into the AFC. We got to talk about my record predictions for every AFC team. And just as a precursor, this might be a little bit of a hotter take compared to the NFC record, because I have every team that makes the playoffs this year for the AFC is going to have 10+ wins. And I think the AFC is a much better conference. I think it has a better conference in terms of quarterbacks and offensive talent. Even in some cases, defensive talent is absolutely insane. But likewise, there's only a couple of teams that I think are going to finish really bad. Most teams are going to be, middle of the road, and there's going to be a lot of 10-win teams. If I remember correctly, I think I have one 10-win team missing the playoffs. I think that if I remember correctly, we talk about it, I'll remember. But if I remember correctly, as of right now, there's going to be a team with 10+ wins that's going to miss the playoffs. And even if it's not right here, I still believe that's going to happen. That's a big possibility. The AFC is absolutely stacked right now. But we got to get into which teams are actually stacked and what the deal is here. So we're going to start here with the AFC North. And I have the Baltimore Ravens finishing 13-4, having the number 1 seed in the AFC again. And I think they're going to win the conference this year, because here's the deal. I loved their draft. I love who they got in the draft. They added a lot of talent in positions of need. Like I can't remember his name. They drafted a tackle, I think in the second round. That was good. They drafted Nate Wiggins out of Clemson and with their first round pick. And not to mention their free agency, while very small, they added a couple, only like 3 or 4 players or so that are actually really effective. But they are really effective. Of course, you got to mention Derrick Henry. Huge pick, and this rushing based offense is that much more deadly. Could you imagine having to defend Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson? That's impossible. That's impossible. And I think Derrick Henry is going to have another great year. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler. And then you have Lamar Jackson coming off of an MVP season. Now, to be fair, the receiving weapons in Baltimore are not great. I mean, I know that, oh my God. What is his name? I feel so bad. It was on the tip of my tongue and it left my brain. Oh my, Zay Flowers. I'm dumb. I'm dumb. Who am I talking about football and talking about the Ravens? And I completely forgot about Zay Flowers. Oh my goodness. Well, am I going to cut that out? Do I cut this out? Nah, we'll leave it in. What the heck? It's all part of the fun. All part of the fun and excitement and chaos of recording a video, trying to settle in. I'm comfortable, but I'm still trying to settle in. But yeah, so other than Zay Flowers, I'm not very confident in the receiver group past that. I know that they re-signed Rashad Bateman, and they're having high hopes for him, but I've been kind of in wait-and-see mode for him, and I'm hoping that he can finally kind of step up. But I'm not going to be, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, yeah, he's definitely going to do that. No, but I'm very hopeful that he can, because the Ravens quite honestly need him to. And then Nelson Aguilar, he's a B tier or like C tier receiver. He's fine. Like he'll make you some good plays, and he'll give you some production. And then Mark Andrews will be back. He'll be healthy, so I'm excited for that. And then there's Isaiah Likely. And Isaiah Likely, I love this guy. I think he's going to step up big this year in being a gadget guy that can line up all over the field. And genuinely, I think he's going to be like I don't know if he'll have the same production or same like year as like an Evan Ingram from Jacksonville, who we'll get to later on. But I see him a lot. I see a lot of Evan Ingram in him, where he can line up outside as a receiver. You can give him line him up at tight end. You can run him on a sweep or end around. That's possible because he has the athletic ability and the speed to make that happen. Like he's a gadget guy. Like he is a gadget guy through and through. And I think he's going to be used a lot more this year in Baltimore's offense. But overall, the reason why I have them going 13-4 is because they still have a top 5 roster. Their offense, their weapons, I really like. There's a couple. The receivers are lacking, but I like their tight ends. I like Zay Flowers a lot. Their offensive line, they did lose Morgan Moses to the Jets, but they did draft a tackle in the second round who I really like to fill in that spot. And then, of course, their defense. Their defense is still incredible. They did lose Patrick Queen, but he's not the number 1 linebacker, so probably someone will jump in there and fill in But you still have Roquan Smith. You still everyone else on the defensive line, the secondary is still there, and I think the Ravens are going to finish 13-4 because their roster is still great and and what they did in the draft and free agency, I think was really good for where they are as a football team. The Cincinnati Bengals, I have them finishing second at 11-6, and they're another team that had a really good free agency and had a really good draft. Free agent wise, oh my god, I can't remember who they brought in for their free agents. I did the research before, but now like having it be a week later from forming the script for this video, I do not remember exactly. Let's look it up. Let's take a second. Laptop here. If the camera's shaking, I'm sorry. Let's see here. Because I know they lost I think they lost DJ Reader or BJ Hill to Detroit, but let's see. Oh yeah, so they signed Trent Brown, the right tackle from New England. I can't remember how much money they gave him, but Trent Brown is a really good right tackle. I like him. He fills a need right there. He can immediately go and plug and play and start. And the offensive line in Cincinnati has been awful these past few years. So I'm hoping that Trent Brown can give them some consistency. Excuse me. They brought in Sheldon Rankins from Houston. He's a good player. They brought in Von Bell, or they re-signed Von Bell, excuse me. I like him as a player. They brought in Mike Gesicki from New England. He's been very underwhelming in his time in New England. I thought he would, with a bigger role, he would be better, but hasn't been there. But also, is that entirely his fault? The offense has been super bad in New England for years now. So it's, we'll see. And along with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, they have a rookie slot receiver that's showing up. That's apparently doing really well in camp. So I think he's going to have a better role and be used more effectively, I think. And then you bring in Zach Moss to replace Joe Mixon. I don't think Zach Moss is a running back one, but he did he had a really good year last year when Jonathan Taylor was out. He was top 5 in rushing, at least top 10. I remember that for a fact. But we'll see what he does in an increased role. I think that, with Chase Brown in the backfield as well, I think that's going to be a good duo. But Zach Moss being the running back one and having a good complement behind him, I like it. I think it's going to be fine for what the Bengals are going to be trying to do on offense. And then the big one was Geno Stone. I think he led the league. He led the league in interceptions last year. He had 6, and he was a really good safety for Baltimore last year. So to get that guy in your secondary and pair him up with Von Bell, I think that safety duo is going to be really good. I like it a lot. So there we go. That's the Bengals free agency, now that I remember it properly. And then they drafted Amarius Mims, the tackle out of Oklahoma or Georgia. He's out of Georgia. That's right. Amarius Mims was the right tackle out of Georgia. So he'll be a replacement for Trent Brown, maybe, I guess, after a couple years. But right now, he's a depth piece. I think he's going to sit and develop a little bit. When I talked about him in my draft video, that he should have sat and developed. And that's good. Oh my God, why can I not remember the Bengals offseason? Let me look at the draft. And then, God, I am so sorry to Bengals fans. I don't know why. I am just not in it right now. Oh, yeah. And then they drafted Chris Jenkins out of Michigan, defensive tackle. I knew they drafted a defensive tackle. I just couldn't remember which one they did. But Chris Jenkins, I love them coming out of Michigan. Very, very talented guy. Very powerful. Then they drafted Jermaine Burton out of Alabama. Another D tackle in McKinley Jackson. So they're doing a lot to fill in the DJ Reader-sized hole that they had left. And then a couple other good pieces that could develop at positions of need. But those are the most notable ones. But the big thing for the Bengals is that a lot of their best players are still here. Joe Burrow is still there. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins are still there. The talented pieces they have on their offensive line are still there, but they need to step up. We need to see better production out of them. And a lot of pieces on their defense are still there as well, like Jermaine Pratt, BJ Hill. No, I can't remember if BJ Hill or DJ Reader left, but one of those guys is still there. You have Trey Hendrickson, who's one of the best pass rushers in the league. I mean, this team is still mostly intact. But the big thing for why I think they're going to finish 11-6 is health, health, and health. If they can stay healthy, this team is dangerous, and there's no doubt about that. We saw what they could do to the Chiefs in the playoffs, and they were the only team that's been able to give them some serious trouble in that area. So Bengals, 11-6. I like their draft. I love their free agency, and they still have their pieces still mostly intact, and their Super Bowl window is very much still wide open. But now we got to get to the Cleveland Browns. I have them finishing 10-7, and there's one reason why I have them finishing 10-7. I thought about them finishing 9-8. I really thought about it because of their offense. But here's the deal. I know their defense was really good last year, and I don't expect them to be as good again because that's really hard to do. But you know what? This defense is still going to carry this team. It's still going to do it. Jim Schwartz as a DC is one of the best defensive minds in the league, and it's just really good. Like their defense is really good. I know they re-signed one of their linebackers recently, which is good for them. But for the offense, here's the thing: it's in major wait and see mode. Can Deshaun Watson finally step up and do something? Can he finally do something to make him remotely worth the contract that he was given? Because currently he hasn't done jack. And if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, I'm annoyed because it's another year, or it's been year after year of Cleveland not having good quarterback play. And we thought that when he went to Cleveland that he would fix that, and he has not shown that he can fix that. And along with that, Nick Chubb, he's coming back after a very gruesome injury. I'm wishing him the best, but will he be the same? We don't know because that injury was pretty darn rough and horrendous. And along with that, the receivers, Amari Cooper, he's great. He's going to continue to be good. But past that, Jerry Jeudy, very talented, but hasn't done anything. Elijah Moore, very talented, but hasn't done anything. So and that's why, like I say, this offense is in wait and see mode because this offense has a ton of talent. The offensive line is really good too, but you lost Bill Callahan as your offensive line coach. So we'll see what happens there. But this offense is still really talented. It still has a lot of good pieces around that you would think that have a high ceiling, and you would think would be better, but they haven't been. And that's why Jerry Jeudy got traded. That's why Elijah Moore got traded, and we got to see their pieces that are there. Their offensive line continue to be good. Hopefully, you got to see Nick Chubb hopefully come back and be good, and then you got to finally hope and realize if Deshaun Watson is finally going to step up and be a decent quarterback. But I think with the team being overall healthier than they were last year, given that they were the most injured team by far, and they still made the playoffs. Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year for a reason. But I think as long as this team is healthy and this offense can just be average and let this defense do its thing, I think they're going to finish 10-7. They're still going to make the playoffs. But that's pretty much it for them. Now we got to get to the fourth place team, the Steelers. I have them finishing 9-8. And the big thing is their quarterback situation is not great. I don't have faith in Russell Wilson right now. He's played himself out of a Hall of Fame resume or out of a Hall of Fame gold jacket, however you want to throw it, however you want to spin it. He was a Hall of Famer, I thought, in Seattle, future Hall of Famer. Then he went to Denver, played so bad, he played himself out of it. And his backup, Justin Fields, I'm not confident in Justin Fields either. I'm not a Justin Fields believer. And so, first off, they're not great. The wide receivers are not great either. I love George Pickens. He's uber talented. He's insanely talented. But past that, what is there to like? Calvin Austin, he's been a backup for so long. Is he going to step up? We'll see. The wide receiver out of Michigan, they drafted Roman Wilson. He's hurt really bad. So I find it hard to get excited for this offense. There is Pat Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth is a really good tight end there. But there's just not much I can get excited about for this offense. And this defense, I think this defense is going to be pretty good, pretty darn good this year. And I thought their draft was really good. I thought their free agency was really good, at least for, adding pieces for the short term that can help them be competitive. But ultimately, I have them finishing 9-8 because the rest of the division is better. It's just better. The Browns have a really, really good defense. The Bengals, I'm expecting them to be healthy, and when they are healthy, you know how good they are. We know how good Joe Burrow is when he's healthy. And the Ravens, they have the best roster in the AFC, in my opinion. They have the best roster, flat out. So one team has to finish last, and I think it's going to be the Steelers. But I have them finishing 9-8 because Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. I thought going into making the script, I thought that I was going to have him finishing 8-9. But I was like, well, I know it's a low-hanging fruit that he's never had a losing season. And I know that, eventually something has to give because this team can't finish 9-8 and, finish with a winning record over and over and over again. Eventually it's going to happen. But for now, I think they're going to finish 9-8. Until I see otherwise, I'm going to have to pick them to finish with a winning record every year, whatever that means for them. But ultimately, they're going to finish last because I think the rest of the division is better and they have a better roster. And so the Steelers are finishing 9-8. But now, why is my computer not working? What are we at? We're 20 minutes in. Okay, not bad. So now we got to talk about the AFC South. And all right, Texans fans, come after me. Come after me. Let's hear it. Texans 11-6. So first things first, they had a really good offseason. I don't think it was a I don't think it was a great offseason. I don't think it was something massive and spectacular like a lot of people make it out to be. But you know what? They added a lot of pieces and they added a lot. They added Aziz Al-Shire. They added Danico Audrey, although he's suspended for the first 6 games. They added Stephon Diggs. They added Joe Mixon. Like they added pieces. They added veteran pieces to this team that's going to help them win now. But the thing with Houston is that their roster is really good. They have a top, what I argue, yeah, they have a top 5 roster in the AFC. But the thing is, they have a lot of good players, but they don't have a lot of elite top level players compared to guys like, or compared to teams like Baltimore or Philly or San Francisco. So they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to win the AFC South outright, and I think they're going to win a playoff game, and they're definitely going to compete for a Super Bowl. But I don't think their roster is as good as those top teams. But I think that's fine. I think that's fine. You're still going to win the division. You're still going to make the playoffs. I like the draft that they had. I love the pick of Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia in particular. He's not the most physically gifted guy, but he's very smart. And I think that's what they need in their secondary to pair up with Derek Stingley and really develop that secondary room that's really not that great outside of those two guys. And I think we might officially be, in the Texans, like we might be in like a Texans era of football or in the AFC South where the Texans are reigning supreme. And to be fair, it's never been as of recently, like no team has won the division 3 years back to back to back in 5 or 6 years or so. It's always been different. So it'll be interesting to see, can the Texans build consistency? Can they develop their young players? Can they get a lot of out of their pieces that they brought in? And I think they're going to. That's why I have them finishing 11-6 and winning the division and, competing for a Super Bowl. Do I think their roster is, top tier? Like it's top 5, but is it like, the best of the best in terms of talent? No, but they got a lot of pieces in there that are going to contribute, that are going to play well, especially, of course, with CJ Stroud and Will Anderson leading their sides of the ball respectively. But I think this team is going to be very good. It's going to be very respectable. It's going to be very competitive. And I have the Texans. That's why I have the Texans finishing 11-6. Now, before we talk about Tennessee and Indianapolis, I have Tennessee finishing 9-8, and I have Indy finishing 8-9. Now, before I got people coming at me in the comments, not that anyone comments on these videos as of right now. Okay, that's fine. We're not doing that. But honestly, with the Titans and the Colts, they can flip. I think they're honestly, one could be 8-9, one could be 9-8, and it could flip. But the reason why I have Tennessee finishing 9-8 over Indianapolis, and we'll go into more specifics, as I talk about each team. But overall, I think Tennessee just has more talent on the offensive side of the ball. And we saw more from Will Levis than we did from Anthony Richardson. Of course, we really don't know how these two quarterbacks are going to play this year. But at least I have more reason to believe that Will Levis is going to have a better year than Anthony Richardson, just because he has better talent around him, and he has more time under his belt actually playing. But we got to elaborate a little bit more. So the Tennessee Titans, I have the Titans finishing 9-8, second in the division. And in terms of looking at the teams that were really bad last year and looking at most improved teams, the Titans are the most improved in my opinion. Look at how the end of last year was just disappointing. The final game was fun for Titans fans, watching them beat Jacksonville and knock them out of the playoffs. But overall, the Titans, they just were injury riddled. Their offense was lethargic and awful and unfun to watch. Their defense, like one of their calling cards in the Mike Vrabel era, fell apart. And I think it was time for change. It was time for change. And I know that the media had trashed Tennessee for firing Mike Vrabel. But here's the deal. Look who they brought in. The first thing they brought in, offensive mind, Brian Callahan, the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati. They brought in Bill Callahan, his dad, to be the offensive line coach, which that was the worst part of their team. And they brought in the best coach in offensive line coach in football to fix it. And then they brought in Denard Wilson as a DC, who was the defensive backs coach in Baltimore. And so this reflects a lot of philosophical change. The Titans have always been this hard-nosed, ground and pound, punch you in the mouth football team. but now they get a young offensive head coach to work with their young quarterback and Will Levis, and now you got a forward thinking offense where it's going to be more pass oriented, and this is also reflected in them bringing in Calvin Ridley. They brought in Tyler Boyd. They brought in Tony Pollard, who's a really good receiving back out of the backfield to pair with Tajay Spears. And the big question for Tennessee this offseason this season is Will Levis, is he the guy? We'll see. They added a ton of talent around him, so we're going to get a definitive answer. No matter how Tennessee finishes, that is the big thing here. Is like, no matter how Tennessee finishes, if Will Levis is good, they're going to win games, and we're gonna have a good impression that he might be the guy in the future in Tennessee. But overall, why have Tennessee finishing 9-8? Because the thing is, they still have holes on their roster they need to fill. And also, they have their talent, or their roster is very young. They have a lot of young guys that's going to take time to develop. And Tennessee is going to be one of those teams in my schedule prediction when I put it all together that they're going to start off really bad, but I think they're going to get stronger as the season goes on and finish 9-8 and really have a really good second half to the season. But overall, they're not ready to compete, but they added a ton of star power on their offense and defense. They added really good coaches. They have a good philosophical change. And I think the Titans are going to be an interesting team to watch this year because of those things. But it's just still young roster, holes, and there's going to be a little bit of growing pains. But we're going to see a new era of Titans football, as much as we're going to see a new era of Texans football as well. And Titans are going to finish 9-8. Moving on to the Indianapolis Colts, I'm having them finish 8-9. And as I mentioned, I'm having the Titans finish above the Colts is because Anthony Richardson, as talented as he is, I think he has a top 3 talent in this league. There's no quarterback in the NFL that can run and throw like he can. But we only saw him play in a few games. And he got hurt and he was out. And I know we're talking about how, if Anthony Richardson's healthy, he's going to be great. Well, we don't know. And when we talk about health, it's not like he took these massive hits that knocked him out of the game. He took routine tackles that put him out of the game. Actually, if I remember correctly, against Tennessee when he injured his shoulder and was out for the rest of the year, I think that was a routine tackle, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a matter of, can he limit how much he's getting hit, and can his body just hold up? We'll just have to see. And like Tennessee, the roster also has a few holes. I would like to see them, they're going to be a liability. And it just reflects that I have more reason to believe in Tennessee than Indy right now. But here's the thing. Anthony Richardson could step up and be really good. I'm not going to rule that out, and I'm hoping that it happens because Anthony Richardson is a very, very talented quarterback. And Shane Steichen, the new head coach, he's not a new head coach. He was there last year. He got a lot out of that roster. He got a lot out of it. Just like Tennessee, this season really falls on Anthony Richardson if he's going to be good or not. I don't like the weapons very much in Indianapolis right now. It's a ton of talent and a ton of promise, but we'll have to see. It's not very proven yet compared to Tennessee. But I think the Colts are going to be really good. I'm not saying really good, but I think they're going to be at least decent. They're going to be very competitive. They're going to play well. And like I said, these two teams, Tennessee and Indy, they're very close. They could flip. So I'm not saying like Tennessee is definitively going to be better than the Colts for sure. But right now, I just have the Colts finishing 8-9 because of the holes they have on their roster and the uncertainty with Anthony Richardson with them. And then that leaves the Colts. The Jaguars finishing 7-10. And I'm not buying into the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. I can't, because Trevor Lawrence gets this big contract, and this will be another rant at some point about these QB contracts that have been dished out this offseason. But the Jaguars, I just want someone to tell me, what has Trevor Lawrence done in his career? Did he win a playoff game? Yes, he did. But in that playoff game, what was he down by? 28 points? And he came back and won. He had a bad first half, 4 interceptions, and then he finished in the second half. I think he had 4 touchdowns. But that game is the epitome of the Trevor Lawrence experience so far in Jacksonville, which has been consistently inconsistent. His rookie year was really bad. We can shove it off to the side here for a second. But looking at 2022, they started 3-7 and then finished 9-8. They started off really bad and finished off really good. And then you go into this year where you thought, okay, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're going to step up and they're going to be the definitive team, the best team in the AFC South. And you know what happened? They started off 8-3. And then they finished 9-8 and absolutely fell apart and then got knocked out of the playoffs in the final week of the season. And all it's been for Trevor Lawrence has been up and down, up and down. And right now, I find it hard to believe that it's going to be different because the offensive pieces in Jacksonville, just like Indianapolis, are a lot of unproven talent. There's a lot of unproven talent, but at least with the Colts, they have a better running back situation. They have a better number one receiver in Michael Pittman. The best receiver they have on the roster right now in Jacksonville is Christian Kirk, and he's a slot receiver. He's good. He's really good. But Gabe Davis, I think he's overrated. He's an overrated deep threat receiver, one-trick pony. And then Brian Thomas Jr., very talented, but he's a rookie. So how much can you expect him to produce in year one? We don't know. You never really know. And with the offensive line, I think the offensive line is going to be better. I really like the right side, especially with Brandon Scherf. They brought in Mitch Morse at center, and then Anton Harrison, their first-round pick, is going to be starting this year at right tackle, which I really like. But the left tackle situation and left guard is not ideal. Urza Cleveland's fine, I guess. Cam Robinson is fine, I guess. But that's going to be a weak point on this for the offensive line. And this defense, the defensive line is great, but linebackers and secondary, I'm not very sold. I'm not sold on, and I'm not excited. And honestly, just right now, the Colts, they got better. The Titans, they got a lot better. Texans, they got a lot better as well. And right now, I think the Jaguars have the worst roster in the division. And that's why I have them finishing 7-10, because simply put, I mean, they didn't do enough, I thought, to stay competitive and really, put themselves or put their best foot forward into making it into definitively saying, we're here to get revenge. We're here to show that we are the best team in the division. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. Until Trevor Lawrence can show that he can put something together and play consistently well, I'm not going to buy into it yet. But overall, Jaguars 7-10. Until I see Trevor Lawrence do something or do something consistently other than being inconsistent, maybe I'll buy into Jacksonville winning more games than finishing 7-10. But we got to move on to the NFC East, and this is the hottest take of the entire AFC record prediction. This is the hottest one. Well, maybe not the hottest in terms of what everyone thinks is going to happen, but at least for me, this is the hottest one because I was surprised when I thought when I was doing the schedule prediction, I didn't expect this to happen. I did not expect the Jets to finish winning the AFC East and finishing 10-7, and I gave it some serious thought. I was like, are the Jets really going to finish 10-7 this year? And after looking at their free agency, looking at what they did in the draft, and looking at their roster in general, I can buy into it. Their roster is really good. I like Aaron Rodgers. I love him a lot. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Is he an unknown right now? Yeah, because we don't know how he's going to play. But he has 20 years under his belt to prove otherwise, or at least have supporting evidence that he's going to be really good this year. Breece Hall will be coming back from injury. He's insanely talented. I like him a lot. When he's healthy on the field, he's really, really good. The receiving core is amazing. Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard is still there. Who else did they? Oh my God, they had a starting slot receiver. I can't remember his name right now, but I know he's really good. The offensive line is kind of mid, but hey, they traded for Morgan Moses, the right tackle out of Baltimore. He had a solid year last year, I thought. And then their defense is still really good. I love their starting corners. I love their safeties. I love their defensive line outside of Hassan Reddick. And his deal, if you want to hear about me ranting about Hassan Reddick, I'm actually going to throw a card up in the video. I'm going to try and figure out how to do it. If I can't figure out how to do it, I'm sorry. And link that to Shumake Take Rants 5, where I talk a lot about Joe Douglas and the Hassan Reddick situation and his contract holdout. But overall, this Jets roster is really, really good. And the thing is, along with it, is that the Bills took a step down. And the Dolphins, we'll get to the Dolphins here in a minute. But ultimately, the roster, like I said, the roster is really good, but the Jets have been so bad. They've been so bad for so long, and they finally have the best roster that they've had in over a decade. So let's root for the Jets for once. We did it with Detroit last year, where they've been bad for so long, and they finally put it together and had a great year. Let's see it happen with the Jets too. Let's let the Jets fans have a good year for once, please. Let's see it happen. That's the ultimate thing, is they finally put something together to actually compete. And let's see them win the division. Let's see them win some games and make the playoffs for once. Jesus Christ. But overall, There you go. Jets finishing 10-7 and winning the AFC East. And we got to get to Buffalo, who I have it finishing 10-7 as well, finishing neck and neck with the Jets. But overall, the Bills, they took a step back this year. Roster-wise, they took a step back. Their wide receiver situation is not good. It's not good. You have Curtis Samuel and Keon Coleman as your number one, number two receivers. And then Khalil Shakir, who showed a lot of promise in these first couple years, but we don't really know how he's going to step up. I'm not confident in this wide receiver core right now. I'm not. And I like Keon Coleman as a prospect, coming out of college, and I like Khalil Shakir and what he can do in the slot. But this is the worst receiving situation that Josh Allen has had since he's maybe like the second worst. As a rookie, it was pretty bad. It was pretty darn bad. But it's going to be a real test to see what Josh Allen can do. But here's the thing is, I think that he's going to will this team to the postseason still. Josh Allen is still Josh Allen. He's a top 3 quarterback in the league right now. And I think he's going to prove it even more this year. And James Cook is still there. He's really good. He had a breakout year last year. Their offensive line is, there's a couple pieces in there that I'm kind of worried about. But overall, I think he'll be fine. I'm hoping that there's was he a first round pick? Yeah, the first round pick, the right guard out of Florida, Osiris Torrance. I think he's going to step up this year and be better. And their defense is going to be worse. Their defense lost a ton of pieces. They lost Jordan Poyer. Matt Milano got injured recently at the time of recording this video. He's going to be out till December at least. So that hurts a lot. They lost Leonard Floyd, who had 8 or 9 sacks last year for them. Von Miller's been a disappointment. He got hurt too. And it's just, they lost Tre'Davious White as well. They lost Tre'Davious White. He went to the Rams. And this defense, I mean, it took a lot. They lost a lot of good pieces on their defense. And it's going to be hard for them to return and get back to a really good form. And I don't know. I just don't know about the Bills. I mean, I know they're going to make the playoffs. Josh Allen is going to do what Josh Allen does. But when it gets into the postseason, I don't think they're going to win another playoff game this year. This is going to be another meltdown, and this is going to cause Sean McDermott's seat to get that much harder. And if he can't put something together here soon where they can make a serious run, then Sean McDermott might be leaving. That might be the hottest take of talking about the Bills and talking about where I think they're going to land. But I mean, it's getting old. It's getting old really quickly that this roster just cannot be super competitive and compete in the playoffs. And that's the thing. The issues with this roster is going to come back and bite them when it comes playoff time. And I think the Bills, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say. I mean, at this point, I'm going to be repeating myself, and I don't want to make it redundant. But the Bills, they kind of regressed. I don't like the receiving core. I don't like what the pieces they lost on their defense. But Josh Allen's going to do what Josh Allen does. They're going to win 10 games. They're going to make the playoffs, and I think they're going to lose in the wild card round. It's going to be that way. That's how it is every year for the most part for Buffalo. They're going to win. They're going to lose in the wild card round, or they'll barely win, and they'll go to the divisional round and get blown out and absolutely crap the bed. But we'll see. Maybe there's something's better. Maybe their pieces that they lost in the offseason, they're new guys, next man up, they step up. We'll see. But the Bills are going to be finishing at 10-7. God, I didn't mean to crap on the Bills as much as I did. I crapped on them like they were going to be winning 7 games or something like that. But we got to move on. And here's the hottest take of the entire AFC NFC thing. Dolphins finishing 9-8. And quite frankly, I want to just say they'll finish 10-7 or better. But quite honestly, with the Falcons, I'm going to give them an additional win. But I don't know exactly what win I'm going to take away from another team. And likewise here, I'm not exactly which team I'm going to take away a win from. So the Dolphins are going to be finishing 9-8. I have them finishing 9-8. But this one I'm most likely going to be wrong about. Compared to all the other teams, this one's very much going to be wrong. I'm willing to bet on it being wrong, to be quite honest with you. But the big thing is with Miami, why I was so low on them when I did my schedule prediction. I'll at least explain myself here. The big thing is they always start off really good, and then they literally get cold when weather starts getting cold. And for me, it's getting old really quickly. It's getting old really quickly because it's 2 years in a row now where you have this glaring issue on your team and it's not getting fixed. And if it's not getting fixed, it's going to come to a head again. And it's going to bite them in the butt, and they're going to end up having another wild card meltdown, disappointing loss. And they almost beat the Bills with Skylar Thompson a couple years ago, and then they absolutely got destroyed by the Chiefs in Arrowhead. And it just every year they keep on losing in December, in November, in January when it matters most, and they got to figure that out. I don't know why it's such a big issue all of a sudden, because the Dolphins have played. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't get why all of a sudden it's this big, huge issue. I know that they play in the cold, they play in the heat, they play in Miami where it's hot and it's warm, but to see them literally be hot and cold and be so drastically different when the temperature drops, it's uncommon. It's weird. It's very weird, but like I said, it's gotten old quickly. It's gotten very old, and if this happens again, where the Dolphins finish off not as good as they did in the beginning of the year, and they sneak into the playoffs and then they just lose. I mean, at that point, you got to start looking at Mike McDaniel and say, "Hey, what are we doing here? Why is the same issue recurring over and over and over again?" And I hope that they can overcome it, because this roster is too good. This roster is too good. I think it's a top 5 roster in the AFC and a top 10 in the entire NFL. They have a ton of star power on their offense. Their defense is absolutely loaded. I loved what they added in the draft and what they added in free agency over there on that side of the ball. And I know they're very hurt right now, at least looking at their depth chart. I don't know exactly, how long those injuries are for. But on paper, this roster is really freaking good. And it's too good to finish 9-8. And that's why I think they're probably going to finish 10-7. Why this prediction is going to be wrong, but if this team finishes, sluggish to the end of the year in the cold weather, and they miss the playoffs, or they make the playoffs and lose the wild card round, I think Mike McDaniel's seat is going to start getting hot. Because, like I said, as a head coach, you can't have the same issues repeating themselves over and over and over again. Because head coaches that have mistakes on their team that repeat over and over and over again get fired, no matter how good they are. If they show that they cannot fix these issues with their team that happen all the time, then it's going to constantly hold the team back. And if you have a head coach that's constantly not fixing issues and it's holding the team back, they have to go. And I don't want to say that, oh yeah, Mike McDaniel is going to get fired after this year, blah, 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 blah. No. But it's getting close to that point where if they finish how they finished these past couple years, I'm going to really start questioning if Mike McDaniel is the guy in Miami. But right now, the Dolphins are going to finish, I think they're going to finish 9-8. I'm probably going to be wrong about that for sure. I think they're going to probably win 10, 11 games. But we'll see with Miami. Can they finally get out of their own head and actually play well in the cold? That's the big thing for Miami this season. But I have them finishing 9-8 now, but we'll see how they finish overall. And lastly, the Patriots, I have them finishing 3-14, and that's because this team is just simply not good. And after losing Matt Judon yesterday, it just gets that much worse. I mean, looking at their offense, it's absolutely awful. The pieces there are just not good. I like some of the pieces that they got, like Jalen Polk, and then they drafted another receiver. I think it came out of Missouri, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he came out of Missouri. They drafted a couple really talented receivers. They drafted Drake May, of course. But honestly, it's just not good. The offensive line just is not good. Their weapons are not good. Their defense has a ton of holes. And one of the few bright spots that was really fun to watch, and Matt Judon, is gone. Although I will say I am very excited about Christian Gonzalez, their first-round pick corner last year out of Oregon. I think he's very talented. And I think he has an opportunity to step up here and actually provide some type of juice or some type of energy to this Patriots defense that's going to be very bad this year outside of him. And I think this year it's a building year for the Patriots. They're going to finish with the top 5 draft pick again. And by the end of the year, Drake May is going to be starting. And he's going to be thrown into a situation where he's not ready to play. But because the Patriots are going to be so bad, they're going to have to play him at some point. But we're just going to have to see there. And then organizationally, hiring Gerard Mayo, I don't like the move. I love Gerard Mayo as a coach. But the thing is, he's an embodiment of the Patriot way. And I know it was in his contract to succeed Bill Belichick. But honestly, you needed to clean house. I thought the Patriots, they needed to completely clean house, hire new coaches, get a young offensive head coach to build around Drake May, and they didn't do that. It feels to me, it feels a lot like they're trying to retain their philosophy, but try and move forward at the same time. See, it feels like they're trying to go two different paths. But if you ever, paid attention in life, or you ever did something in life, or you ever watched Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith with Anakin Skywalker, if you try to take two paths at the same time, you're going to go down none of them. You're going to go down the wrong one. It's going to blow up in your face. So if I were the Patriots, I would have completely cleaned house. And I thought the move was very disappointing. I thought they could have done better. I'm not saying Gerard Mayo is a bad coach at all. He is a great, great, great coach. But I think they just needed to move in a different direction philosophically. We move on to the AFC West, and we got 4 teams to go. We're 45 minutes in. We're doing pretty good on time. I thought we'd actually go a little bit over, but over an hour. But we got to finish off strong here. Chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs, I have them finishing 11-6. And the big thing here is that they're making the AFC Championship again, and there's no doubt in my mind. Until they prove me otherwise, then I have them going to the AFC Championship. I think they're probably going to lose. I think the Ravens are going to go to the Super Bowl this year. But then again, the Chiefs have won 2 straight Super Bowls, so am I picking them because they've done so well, or am I going to pick against them because no team has ever won 3 Super Bowls in a row? I'm going to go with history here. But likewise, the Chiefs are more than likely going to make it back again anyways. I have no reason to really go against them, definitively and say, oh, yeah, for sure they're not making it. But here's the thing. The Chiefs, they added young talent. They added Xavier Worthy in the draft. I thought he was kind of a reach, but you know what? They needed another young receiver in there. So do that with you will. The rest of their draft I thought was really good. Free agency, they didn't do a whole lot, but here's the thing with the Chiefs. I think they're going to have a slow start to the season. They're going to start. I think they have them starting 0-2. I think I might have them starting 0-3. But I have this for one reason, because the Chiefs, they always start off a little slower to the season. But here's the thing: the narrative is going to write itself. The narrative is going to write itself that here we go again with the Chiefs starting off slow. They're going to take a step back. They figured out Mahomes, and no, you haven't. No, you haven't. It's just going to take time for this offense to gel and come together, because it's a lot of young talent, and I like Mahomes. I like Isaiah Pacheco. The receivers, I'm not too hot. I'm not too excited about, but you know what? They have a ton. Objectively, they have a ton of talent. And Xavier Worthy was a first-round pick for a reason. He's a super fast burner who has a ton of speed and a ton of space. When the ball in his hand, when the ball hits in his hands and he's in space, he's a deadly weapon. Rasheed Rice, Sky Moore, and Hollywood Brown are all guys that can just take the top off of a defense. And if those guys hit their ceilings, this offense could be one of the best in the league. And of course, you can't forget about Travis Kelce as well. And their offensive line is really, really good. I love the pick of Kingsley Suamaitai at right tackle. And you have Trey Smith. And then you have, oh my God, what's the name of the center? You know the center out of Tennessee. That's really, really good. No, he's not the center. No, Trey Smith is a guy out of Tennessee. Oh my God. Creed Humphrey, that's his name. But yeah, that right side of the offensive line I think is going to be really good. The left side is okay. I like it. Oh, Joe Tooney is there. What the heck am I talking about? But yeah, this offensive line is going to actually be really good, I think. Never mind. But along with that, the roster is not loaded overall like in years past. But then again, they've won. Like I said, they've won the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. And these past couple of years, their roster has not been absolutely stacked like it was when when Mahomes first became the starter of the Chiefs. But until they prove that they don't do it, I think the Chiefs are going to make it to the AFC Championship again. Until they prove me otherwise, how can we pick against them to not make it again? For what is it? 19, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. For 6 years in a row now. So until we see otherwise, they're making it at least to the AFC Championship again. Chiefs finishing 11-6. And the Chargers, I think I'm going to have them finishing 8-9. Because here's the thing. This team still has holes. This defense is okay, but they lost a couple of pieces. And I'm not really sure how they're going to do well. But this roster is at a point where it's ready to somewhat compete and be competitive. But I think overall it's going to be a big bake in the another year in the oven for Jim Harbaugh coming from Michigan because it's a new coach, new philosophy, and ultimately they need to learn how to win games. They need to learn how to win games because Brandon Staley wasted what was a really, really good roster, and now they got to build it back up all over again for the most part. And that starts at the offense. The offensive skill players on this team are actually, or they're probably one of the worst in the league. It might be the worst in the league. It is the weapons around Justin Herbert are absolutely awful. Your running backs are Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards has never been a running back one. I don't know if he can be. J.K. Dobbins is perennially hurt. Is that his fault? No. But then you look at the receiving weapons. They did draft Ladd McConkey out of Georgia, but he's a rookie. Quentin Johnson has been an absolute disappointment. Last year, he was a first-round pick out of TCU, and the dude, if he was running out there with, I can't believe it's not butter on his hands, or like he had some butter. He dropped balls. It was really bad, and he was very disappointing. And then your number 2 receiver is Joshua Palmer, who's been a consistent wide receiver 3 and 4 throughout his career. Is he going to step up? We'll see. Their tight end group, I do not like. Their offensive line, outside of Joe Alt, who they drafted 5th overall to play right tackle, and then Rashawn Slater, who's one of the best left tackles in the league. I'm not sold on the rest of the offensive line. And I can't emphasize enough that this is going to be a year in the oven for the Chargers. They need to learn how to win, and they need to put a couple more pieces together before I can say, okay, they're ready to compete and make a playoff push again. And lastly, second to last, we have the Raiders. I have them finishing 7-10. And you know why? Because first things first, they didn't significantly improve. The only spot that they thought they got better at was a defensive tackle, and they brought in Christian Wilkins. And sure, their draft, I'll say the tight end got better, I guess, because they drafted Brock Bowers. But I didn't like the Brock Bowers pick. I know that he was a really good talent and he was the best player available. But here's the thing: the Raiders, their offensive line is bad. I don't like it. They needed a tackle more, I thought, and they could have drafted Talisa Fuaga, and then he went one pick later. And I thought that was the need. I thought that was the move because you drafted Michael Mayer last year, who was the best tight end coming out. And I just don't get it because I just don't understand it. I thought they had bigger needs than Brock Bowers. He's going to be good. He's going to be an effective player as a rookie. But, oh, my goodness. I thought you really needed a tackle. I thought you really needed an offensive lineman to really start building that group again. I know they needed offensive skill players as well because outside of Michael Mayer and Devontae Adams, they had Jacoby Myers, who's all right. But other than that, there was nothing. Zamir White being a starter in Las Vegas for the running back, I don't know if that's the right move or not. So, I mean, I guess, but I thought they needed to tackle more, and that was just very disappointing for me. And I know that you had to hire Antonio Pierce as a head coach, but kind of like New England, I think they needed a new change. I think they needed a philosophical change. I don't know that Antonio Pierce is bringing a philosophical change technically, but I know they played hard for him. I know they believe in him. And if he was going to leave, I know certain players like Matt Crosby were going to demand a trade. But I just don't know. The Raiders have been stuck in purgatory there. They're like the New Orleans Saints of the AFC. They're never good enough to compete for the playoffs, but they're never bad enough to get a top 10 pick. And speaking of top 10 picks, Tyree Wilson needs to step up. If this team has any hopes of making some type of push and being good, the players that they drafted recently, they need to step up and they need to start being good. All right, we are back. We're going to finish this up really quickly, but the Raiders, they just need to – I don't want to root for a team to be bad like the Saints, how I talked about it with them, but the Raiders, we just need to figure out what the Raiders are. Are they going to be a good team or are they going to be a bad team? Because having this 7-10, going 8-9, it just doesn't cut it for me anymore. They need to figure out where they stand because they're trying so hard to be competitive, but it's like they want to be competitive, but they're not doing enough to be there, but they don't want to be bad either. Can they finally just be on one side of the fence and finally give the Raiders fans something to be hopeful for? Because the Raiders finishing 7-10, I think it's going to be another year of that same purgatory crap. But God, can the Raiders just please pick a side and stay on a side for once? I'm just not encouraged by the Raiders. I thought that they didn't do enough this offseason, and they're just going to be mid. They're going to be stuck in the middle all over again. But we got to conclude this video with the Denver Broncos. I have them finishing 4-13, and they're in a full-blown rebuild. They're in a full-blown rebuild mode. They purged their roster. Talent is absolutely awful. Right now, Jarrett Stidham is set to be the starter. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Bo Nix is going to end up winning the job. But, oh, man, I don't expect a thing from this team. I do not expect a thing from this team. I think Bo Nix is going to struggle because your only good receiver is Cortland Sutton. I know they drafted his teammate Troy Franklin out of Oregon, but he's a smaller guy. Can he stay healthy? Javonte Williams at running back. We've been waiting for him to emerge and be good, but I'm not going to bank on that. The offensive line is not that great. It's just on this defense too. There's no talent on this defense outside of Pat Surtain and a couple other guys. This roster is devoid of talent. I think they're going to finish 4-13. And honestly, I think Sean Payton's going to be fired. I think he's going to be fired because I don't know. I just think he's going to be fired. You can't finish how you finished last year with Denver, finish 4-13, and then keep your job. And I don't know if Sean Payton has been shown that he can really build a competitive roster, from the ground up. But he is a good coach, so who knows? We'll see. But for now, I have the Broncos finishing second to last in the AFC at 4-13. But we did it. We got through it, and that's going to do it for me today. I had to cut this video short, or cut the outro a little short today, but you guys already know the drill. Like, subscribe, do everything that other YouTubers tell you to do. But that's going to do it for me. I love you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one.